This is Andi Purewal for Boxing News. I'm here in Canada and I'm joined by Paul Smith Jr. Paul, first, good to see you. Happy New Year. How are you? How was your Christmas and New Year?
It was good, thanks. Nice and quiet. Just at home with the missus and kids. Happy New Year to you too, mate. Hope it's a good one.
It was indeed, and I imagine you guys will be very much confident going into Saturday night. Before we do break down the fight, Paul, hearing about an atypical result and atypical finding with Artur Beterbiev ahead of Saturday night. Now that result, two results came back from a December 6th test. I just want to get your reaction to the news breaking now. Obviously I know you guys as a team would have known beforehand, but just your take on the entire scenario.
It is what it is with boxing nowadays. I've said it before, I just don't see the point in testing. And I never knew that I'm not saying Artur Beterbiev is there, but there's no atypical findings anywhere else. It's not an adverse finding, but it's an atypical finding, which says that it's neither positive nor negative. So it's not for me to say. Is it, you make it that what you will, but there's clean athletes out there who are saying they're clean and they've never had an atypical or an adverse finding in their life. There's never been anything wrong with any test they've had, like Callum, like anyone else. There's never been a need for a secondary test or a secondary look at another test. Make of it what you will, you know. It's for everyone else to say, isn't it? It's not for me to say. I'm not being the scapegoat standing out there calling anyone a cheat. I'm not calling anyone a cheat, but it's an atypical finding, so it is what it is. It doesn't really make a blind bit of difference, in my opinion, to the fight now. If he's passed two tests since then, he's obviously not taking drugs. So the fight's happening, and I'm very, very confident in the Callum Smith win, the Callum Smith knockout.
Do you think the fight was ever in jeopardy on the back of the atypical finding?
I don't know. Again, I've had to look into it, ask questions, be educated on what the difference between atypical and adverse is. And I'm informed that atypical is neither a positive or a negative, but if it's not a negative, it's not a negative, in my opinion. That's how I look at things. If it's not a positive, it's also not a positive, but if I go and take a drug test for performance-enhancing drugs now, there's absolutely nothing in my system that will enhance my performance in a boxing ring, because I'm not taking anything that would spike up as atypical or adverse. And that's how, in my opinion, that's how drug testing should be with everyone, but it's not. The rules are the rules, the law is the law, and I'm sure whatever is going to be done will be done, but the most important thing is what will happen on Saturday night and how that fight goes. And I'm a very big believer now in Callum Smith winning by knockout.
Fight goes ahead on Saturday. You've just said it perfectly there, leading into my next question. You believe Callum wins by knockout. Is this one fight which that word shooter has continued to be mentioned, especially from kind of Callum's team and the Smith team? Is that the way you see this fight unfolding? At some point, it's going to be a case of standing there, and whoever can land that first real clean shot will come away victorious.
I think both fighters are better than that, to be honest with you, and it could be that way. It just depends what happens when the first couple of good big shots land from either fighter. But as we say, you know, Beterbiev's there to be hurt. He's been hurt before, he's been down before, and in my opinion, from punches who Callum Smith can punch probably harder than and generate more power than. He's a massive puncher, Callum, and so is Beterbiev. He's strong as anything. He's never been beaten. There's no blueprint there to beat him, but there's guidelines and there's hints on how to do it, because it's happened to him before. He's been down before. He's been hurt before. Callum's very confident in his non-punching hands. There's going to be a time in the fight probably when both fighters are going to engage at the same time, and Callum, as family, as team, we are confident that there's enough openings there and there's enough sort of gaps in there in Beterbiev's defence and the way he fights. He takes chances himself. He's sometimes necessary, sometimes unnecessary, sometimes just due to a lack of respect of the opponent's power coming back or the opponent's energy levels coming back. But that's, Buddy McGirt said something similar through the week on an interview I saw, I think it was with Sky. He said we have to get his respect early, and I'm a big believer in that also. If an opponent has no respect for your power, he's not going to stop him coming forward. So you have to give him something to think about. You have to gain his respect early, and we're very confident in what Callum can do, and fingers crossed he does the job on the night.
One thing I'm interested in your thoughts on, Paul. I know you're not necessarily the biggest fan of social media, but this weekend, specifically at the beginning of it, a lot of people were suggesting that maybe when Callum fought Canelo, when the going got tough, someone went into a shell and never really came out of it and just looked to kind of go, I don't want to say gun ho, but put it all on the line at the point when the fight was got away from him. And I'm starting to question if maybe the going gets tough with Beterbiev when he first feels Beterbiev's power, will he kind of shell up again? What have been your thoughts on anybody who's taken that take going into Saturday night?
Listen, everything's a possibility, isn't it? You know, at the end of the day, my opinion on the Canelo fight was, and I spoke with my brother Liam about this, and I think Stephen's mentioned this as well. It's like after a couple of rounds, Callum probably lost that belief that he could beat him when he realised how good he actually was. Maybe that the fact that he was making it a bit easy, closing the distance, Canelo. But the first things I said to him after the fight is he's one of the best to ever do it. They won't let you do what you'd be good at. He nullified everything Callum did. He closed the distance down really well. But it's a totally different fight. You know, Canelo Alvarez and Beterbiev are totally different opponents, different styles, different times in their life, different weight. Don't forget, you know, you're getting offered the Canelo Alvarez fight when you probably shouldn't be at the weight anyway. But you're champion, you're taking that fight whether you want to think you can do it or not. I'm not saying he didn't either. Then either you've got to take that type of fight. So, but everyone could see and anyone could see the difference in him from super middle at 12 stone to 175 at light heavyweight, and he's a totally different fighter now, comfortable wise, and I think we'll see the best out of him at 175. So for me, it's a different type of fight, different tactically, different technically, different mentally, physically. It's a totally different fight than the Canelo Alvarez, and Callum needs to have a lot better performance than the Canelo Alvarez fight, 100%. As I said, it's just a different time in his life though, and I think he's a different fighter mentally now, different team around him, different way of fighting, different style of fighting. You know, he's the same but a bit different, and I think we'll see the best out of him on Saturday night.
Something else I'm interested to get your thoughts on, Paul, is it's obviously came out now that Dmitry Bivol said and his team have said he's agreed a deal to face Artur Beterbiev in an undisputed bout as part of a two-fight deal in Saudi Arabia. Now, from what has been reported and from what I've heard so far, it's purely a deal to face Artur Beterbiev. Beterbiev hasn't agreed that but Bivol has. Callum's name not involved in that. What are your thoughts, if all of that's believed to be true, that Bivol's already agreed terms for a potential fight with Beterbiev and not even including Callum in that?
He may have, but I've heard different from Saudi. So, you know, it is what it is. I don't know what's going on behind the scenes with them two. That's the fight everyone will want to see.
And that's what you've heard?
I know people in Saudi. I've got a fighter. I manage a Saudi fighter. I've heard differently. I haven't heard differently to that. I've heard different with regards to Callum and Bivol. If Callum should win the fight, so we'll see. If I'm a boxing fan, if I'm an armchair fan, if I'm a promoter or a manager, I want to see that fight, the undisputed fight. But to be honest with you, there is no undisputed fight if Callum Smith wins on Saturday night and does what we think he's going to be doing. So if he's got all three belts, they can make Bivol and Beterbiev all he wants. It's a good fight. I'd watch it myself. But if it's not for all four belts, I don't see why it will happen in Saudi. It could happen in Saudi, but it could be Callum also on in Saudi defending his three belts. So you just never know. As I say, the fight's signed, but we've seen it before. We saw it very, very recently with AJ and Wilder. You know, you've signed AJ Wilder. It isn't happening. It's never going to happen now, probably. I personally never want to see Wilder in a boxing ring again. I think he's done, and there's no shame in that. He's had a phenomenal career. He's earned millions. He's won world titles. He's one of the biggest punching heavyweights or fighters I've ever seen in my life. No shame whatsoever in what he's done and what he's achieved, but his health's got to be important to him, and his last two fights haven't really gone well for him. So why would anyone want to see another one now? If he'd have won that, I'd like to see him against Joshua. I'd still like to see him against Usyk maybe, but them fights are done if it's not there physically. But we've seen what happens before, as you say, back to your point, when fights are signed and the winner hasn't won yet, or the semi-final isn't done yet. This semi-final isn't done yet, and if Callum wins, then it's going to put a big spanner in them works.
Well, as always, just got a couple of topics to quickly get your thoughts on. We saw Joshua-Ngannou announced the other day. Francis's name and his reputation certainly accelerated since that fight with Tyson Fury. What are your thoughts on seeing that one in March?
I think it's a good move. On the night of the fight, Ngannou Fury, I tweeted, if I'm Eddie Hearn now, which I'm not obviously, I'm picking the phone to Ngannou straight away, and I'm offering him AJ, and I'm offering him that fight straight away, because he sort of proved that he's okay and he can hold his own in a boxing ring, and I get a bit of stick for it, but I've got to say what I think, and it's my opinion. He's still not a good boxer. He's just done really well on the night against a very, very bad Fury. I hope Fury had the off night of his life and he wasn't on a decline, because he's going to need everything he's got against Usyk, which is a great fight. But Ngannou against Joshua, I'm fine seeing that because of how sort of, not comfortable, but how content he was in that ring, and how he wasn't out of his depth by any stretch of the imagination. He looked like he belonged there a little bit at times. So I think it's a win-win for everyone, for the promotion, for AJ, for Ngannou. He's getting probably another monster payday, which he won't be getting in the UFC. And AJ should look good against him. Should. I'm never saying it again now, he definitely won't beat him, but he should look okay against him.
On that Fury-Usyk fight, what are your thoughts? Undisputed supremacy on the line, February 17th.
Before the last fight, the Ngannou show, it was always Fury for me, and I love Usyk. I really like him. I always have done. Rate him massively. Think he's done absolutely exceptional with his career, with his life, and I love him I love watching him as a person. Callum's got a big Usyk cap. We all like him now, so we always have done. He's some fighter. Why wouldn't you? He can beat Fury on his day, and if Fury isn't at the races, and he certainly wasn't at the races against Ngannou, so I'd always back Fury in that if he's there, but he has to make sure he's 100% and he's still got it, and if he has still got it, then Fury points.
Final one, and somebody I know you'll be supporting next week back in Liverpool, Natasha Jonas faces Michaela May. Just your thoughts on that, please, Paul?
Good show. I've got a fighter I manage, Stephen Clark, making his professional debut on there, so nice little plug for him there in the interview, thanks. It's a tough fight for Tasha, and I'm behind. I hope she does it. I really hope she can pull it off on the night. She should do. Maya's tough, but I think it's probably the wrong weight for her, and I fancy Tasha. If home crowd. We were talking about it in here the other day. There was a couple of boxing people and said she won't lose in Liverpool, and it was Artur saying it as well. She'll have that crowd behind her. She'll use every bit of it. There's going to be a lot of people there, a lot of good ticket sellers, as I say, on the undercard as well. A couple of good little fights on the show as well. Chelly as well, so I'm looking forward to that fight. It'll be a good fight. Yeah, fancy Tasha, and hopefully she does the business.
Paul, listen, I appreciate I've probably taken a bit more of your time than you'd like, but you got a nice evening ahead. Yeah, true, yeah, we're snowed in. It's been something I'll never forget, but I appreciate your time, Paul. Thanks for speaking to me. I'm sure I'll catch you around.
All the best, mate. Nice to see you.